shit. A real fucking icebox.
There is no spoon.
What's wrong?
Seriously? Auto-updating now? General, I won't be able to calculate the right data for the satellite for 49 minutes.
How long till impact?
11 minutes and 44 seconds.
Fuck Microsoft!
Well, they call them interdimensional beings.
He specifically asked for you, sweetheart.
By our powers combined, we give you the Galactic Family Podcast.
Put the phone down.
Hello, my name is Nick Pope, formerly from the British UFO Desk, and you're listening to the Galactic Family Podcast.
It's probing time.
Hey, how's everyone doing in the Galactic Family Podcast world tonight? In this powerful episode of the Galactic Family Podcast, the neural frontier between mind and machine, we sit down with visionary innovator Dave Segal to explore the rapidly evolving world of brain-computer interfaces, wearables, human-machine interfaces, and AI-driven neural systems. From thought-controlled technology to invisible wearable sensors, Dave is helping pioneer a future where the human brain becomes the ultimate controller, eliminating the need for traditional screens, keyboards, and physical inputs. We break down how neural interfaces translate brain signals into digital commands, how AI enhances human intent, and how neuro-adaptive systems are transforming accessibility, communication, and performance. This conversation dives deep into the real-world applications, ethical challenges, and the long-term implications of merging biological intelligence with artificial systems. Let's go ahead and bring Dave up on the screen here. Dave, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you on here on the Galactic Family Podcast. So, Dave, for people just discovering your work, how do you usually explain what you do in simple terms?
Well, in simple terms, I think we're building non-invasive technology that allows people to control connected devices, command, control, and navigate connected devices, hands-free, voice-free, and sometimes even screen-free. And we've really come up with a number of different types of technologies, but our core technology is really a hardware-enabled software platform that where the hardware aspect is within the form factor of the world's #1 wearable form factor, and that's smart earbuds. And to collect those types of signals, and with nothing more than a neural earbud, have that total command, control, and navigation of your connected world in a silent and invisible way.
Wow. So what first pulled you into brain-computer interfaces and neural tech?
Totally by accident, and for the purpose of disclosure to your audience, you know, I'm not a PhD or MD. I spent my whole life as a programmer, as a matter of fact, and got into this field absolutely by accident. I think I'd say, late 2023, I was reading this Google News story about this soldier, this Afghanistan, I believe, veteran, who stepped on a roadside bomb and blew off his arms and legs and really got severely injured and was getting fit for a brand new, shiny, thought-controlled prosthetic arm, which now in our newsfeed, we read this stuff all the time. But, backtrack a little bit in your mind back to 2013. This is also the year, if I recall, that smart earbuds lost their wire and became wireless, so to speak. So back in those days, to hear anything that was, thought control anything, I was like, boy, is that even real? So I just did what you would do, or anybody in your audience would do. I kind of Googled thought-controlled computing and found a number of different projects around the world. I found there was a collaboration between Stanford University and Brown University called BrainGate that was using, I would say, larger brain implants, but doing, stuff that's, I would say, mostly the same as what many of us are familiar with Neuralink or with companies like Synchron, et cetera, for PC control, cursor control. Somebody was working on like a thought-controlled wheelchair. Somebody was working on a thought-controlled car. Somebody even was doing a thought-controlled drone. And DARPA was working on, at the time, a thought-controlled F-35 flight yoke. And all this within the first page or two of the Google results. So I remember looking at that, and this is just from a programmer's perspective. I was like, oh my God, it's all the same thing with just one scan. I'm like, it's all the same thing. I figured, if you could almost will a cursor to the left, let's just say 100 pixels, just as an example, why couldn't you just quantize that movement, whether it be pixels or other unit of measurement, and convert that to something like a servo arm, an actuator, or adjusting the RPM of a drone motor to make sure it turns left, or to steer a car to the left, or a wheelchair to the left, or a flight yoke to the left. To me, it was just the same. So at that moment, this is all like in the same Google search. I kind of had this thought experiment. I guess I daydream a lot, but just kind of had this imagination where, what if I was born without eyes, born without a mouth, and born without limbs? And if there were 10 computers around the world, and every computer had 10 folders, and every folder had 10 executables, using nothing but brainwaves, based on my one Google search, is based on what I've learned from a search, how would I choose server or computer number 5, folder 3, executable 10? And I kind of just had this almost a vision of almost a line pattern. Like you kind of, if you're imagining left, maybe you go left for a few units, maybe forward in the third dimension, like push for 1 unit, maybe right 1 unit, maybe, the line pattern, for instance, in aggregate was your execution phase. So I thought to myself, gee, I wonder if this could be like, I wonder if anybody's doing this. So I just basically bought a lab grade non-invasive EEG, the waves. I shaved my head, used a permanent marker to kind of make sure I was being very consistent in electrode placement, and started looking at brainwaves. And within a few weeks, I just felt like I was in this rabbit hole, and I couldn't stop drafting and typing and whatnot, and ended up filing for my first patent just as a project, just for fun, later that month. Wasn't really fully grounded on the science yet, but I knew there was a there. And what I was at least describing was well-based in science.
Wow. Yeah, that's totally, like, I can't imagine that, the initial Googling and then kind of going, hey, let's look at this a bit more deeper from a programming perspective. And then, like, in that initial phase where you bought an EEG cap and you're putting it on, and you're getting some data across to your personal machine, I presume. And you're like, okay, that must have been a real interesting time. And then what happened? Like when you realized that you could develop this further into potentially so you had a patent, you got a patent there. You're kind of like, okay, we've got this here. And then what was going through from that phase, like the, I guess, prototyping or the initial pre-prototyping engineering phase? How was it kind of coming all the way forwards to, Mark 1, Mark 2, and then going, okay, we've got this thing now, and now boom, we can hit the markets and kind of get out there a bit more with it. If you could draw us through those kind of years, perhaps.
Well, it was years, and I wish it were that linear in the way that you described it.
Yeah,
there actually wasn't a prototype until much later, because my ability to raise money was very, very, I would just say I struggled, and it was very challenging. As much as I knew about programming and technology, I knew the inverse of that as far as raising other people's money for a concept that was pretty much out there. Right. I mean, imagine going back to the year 2013 and telling an investor, hey, I have this design for wireless smart earbuds that almost hands-free, voice-free, invisibly, silently allow you to control your connected devices. No voice, no touch, not even looking. People looked at me like I was crazy for years, actually. But I knew that there was a there. And I think it's not that I was smart that I continued. I think I was naive.
Right.
Knowing what I know now, I might not have, as a matter of fact. I just was stubborn and naive. But one thing that was a crucial, I think, stepping stone for me was there's a regional state STEM university called Harrisburg University of Science and Technology, which is based obviously in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And it's Pennsylvania's newest STEM-based university. And I remember very early on in my journey, I approached the president of the university just to show him what I was doing. This was really just my project in my basement, so to speak. And he was impressed enough to ask me if I wanted an office. I was like, yeah, of course I want an office. Yeah. And of course you go run home and you call up mom and dad and let them know what happened and etc. But it was a lot of the guidance that I received there actually helped teach me how to do pitch decks and things of that nature. It was early in that, I think, that phase, and this is going back to the year, by the way, 2017, 2018, to give you and the audience a time frame concept. It was like just days after I just was handed the key to the office, I received a call from I would say a regional quadriplegic who had read, I think, a Central Penn Business Journal article of some of my work and said, "Hey, would you be willing to meet with me?" And I said, "Sure," and drove out to his home, which is actually towards the Hershey area, and ended up pulling beautiful neighborhood, pulled onto a street. It almost looked like, have you ever been in a neighborhood where it looks like there's like somebody's getting married at their house? You know, it's just like car all the way up this road. And I remember thinking, gosh, who's getting married here? And I was struggling to find street parking, and ended up finding a parking spot, walked up to the house. I heard this rumble in the house. There was like a lot of people in it. I was like, no, is everybody here? And what he had done, he had invited his extended family over just to hear what this guy Dave had to say. And I showed up in flip-flops, cargo shorts, t-shirt, my backpack. Wasn't ready or expecting that. And just to see the hope on everybody's face, eyes just bugged open, just to hear what the latest and greatest, or at least what the future vision of this type of technology would be. And I left there a different person, I would say, because I think before that, I was really focusing on this I'm a problem solver, just to think or imagine what if, just to see if you can. And the moment you meet somebody who lives in I would say, a challenging health situation where they spend most of their life in bed, I think it was at that moment where I think I was almost just kind of rebuilt from the ground up with purpose to at least have the courage to go and move forward. And raising money was tough in that I wasn't successful until I ended up going to New York City, meeting with a local VC there in Manhattan, who, I'm showing up in a suit and tie. By the way, my forehead's dripping with saline from this non-invasive EEG, hoping, by the way, they ask for the demo before the electrodes dry out, because then it kind of doesn't work. So your heart's pounding. You're like, please just ask me to do my thing before I have to pull this thing off and start all over again. And anybody in your audience that works with non-invasive neurotech or EEGs, any kind of a wet electrode system knows that type of anxiety that I'm describing. And it was just kind of dripping off my forehead onto my tie and all that. And I said, what do you think? And they said, Dave, it's one of the most amazing tech demos we've ever seen, but we don't know what to do with you because you don't have a team. And I said, well, gee, I'm working with this buddy, and that buddy, and all of which, by the way, were regional geniuses. But, this VC looked at me like, just gave me that little head turn like that, which kind of signaled to me that I wasn't understanding what he was saying. And I said, I guess I don't have a team. And I knew it was almost a 3.5-hour drive home. So I had the courage just to say, well, gee, I guess I need a CEO. Do you know anybody? And just as almost a send away, he mentioned our current CEO's name, Mark Godsey, who founded the world's first coated heart stent, and had a unicorn exit with that, and created one of the world's largest vaccine manufacturing companies, had another unicorn exit, and just was one of the top biotech entrepreneurs in Canada's history. So that was my first cold call, and that they're all no's until there's a yes. And he was my first yes.
Well, I thank you for your persistence and kind of, you're saying you're being naive and stubborn, on one level, but on another level, absolute persistence with a vision, and then hearing about your perspective changing in those flip-flops from, like the, and then just having this kind of world vision, this kind of idea, this concept, and moving forwards. Jay, do you want to come in off the back of that? I know you're kind of, or like,
yeah, during this process, when you were thinking about this huge thing that you were about to bring out to the world, what was the first real breakthrough in your head that you believe that made this possible?
I know it sounds crazy, but it was basically 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I had a frustrating day. Because I had thought I had worked on some algorithms that I thought showed extreme promise, and then randomly they just stopped working. I wasn't quite sure why at the time. And I was just watching TV and History Channel. I love documentaries, by the way, just eating a bag of Doritos, just watching History Channel. And they had a documentary about ancient Mesopotamia and the Sumerians. And they pulled out this stone tablet of Sumerian cuneiform. And, going back to the earlier part of our broadcast, I had mentioned I was working on this line pattern centric methodology of device control and navigation. I remember looking at that just within a second. I'm like, God, that's so weird. It almost looks like a coordinate system, and I'm not sure if anybody in your audience just Googles Sumerian cuneiform, you're going to find that these are glyphs that are comprised of like triangles with a line coming out of the point of the triangle, most of which are at right angles. Looking at those, look like, gee, you can go right, down, right, or something like that. And I was like, oh my, I wonder if you can draw that type of glyph in your mind, if it could be associated to any computer function and any execution phase, whether it be an executable, batch file, API code, single word, sentence, paragraph, you name it, right? And was able to validate that concept, right? And so my core inspiration is bizarre, as one would think, was really based on Sumerian cuneiform. So much so, that was really the core fundamental inspiration. I'm afraid to call it a breakthrough, because sometimes breakthrough, I think the term breakthrough is best defined as, at least in my world, is like something that came from effort. And I know not all breakthroughs come from effort, but this was something that just kind of randomly happened. I wasn't looking for it, just kind of fell in my lap, and it was just random curiosity that had it pan out. So it panned out so well. I wanted to pay homage. I believe in karma to a large degree, and I was like, gosh, how could I pay homage to that, or to the Sumerians, so to speak, just for giving me that little universal wink and nod that helped get me over that first crucial hump or breakthrough. And I couldn't call the technology Anunnaki logics, because I'd be ridiculed to high heaven in the academia and scientific communities. So I dropped the Anu and just had the NAKI, Naki logic. I kind of socialized that with family and friends, and the general feedback was kind of sounds like Naki kind of sounds like a Japanese sushi high-end elite restaurant that could be located in like downtown New York City. That was like the big feedback. So I was like, oh, let me try to make up a word by changing the K to Q, NAQI, and we'll pluralize logic, because maybe there's more than one logic. I don't know. And that's how Naki Logics, my company, was named. And later found, this is so bizarre. So thinking I made up the word like Skype, Spanx, Kodak, just trying to come up with like a Skype-like made-up word with NAQI. Then later, after I had already started drafting the plans of the company, somebody said, "No, Dave, there's a meaning in that." And I was like, "Where?" And they're like, "Oh, well, in Arabic and in Hebrew, NAQI means pure, clean, and to never touch." I said, "No." Yeah.
Wow.
Almost, like I said, it was almost serendipity, almost meant to be.
That was fate.
Yeah. There's no other, it wasn't from hard work or ability or skill. It just random.
Wow. Yeah. When you mentioned about the cuneiform and sitting there with your Doritos, and it's not a breakthrough moment, but it has, that's for me that would be an aha moment of like, hold on, one, I've got a there. Two, we're at this phase in the thing. I'm looking for like the algorithm is broken down a little bit and it's not working, so I'm just taking a break. I'm keyboards away for a moment, sit down, you see this cuneiform on the History Channel, and you're like, that's very similar to what you're working on and translation. Is the translation like X, Y, and Z? Is it like that kind of like working in, just not
somewhat
to get
part of it? Yeah,
Okay.
just a component of it. And I'll just take a half a step back, because although my early patents were specific on true EEG detection and converting that into some kind of computer execution phase, these earbuds that we're working on, I would not label them as thought control at all. And that's an important differentiation. And you're probably want to know why that hop was made to, true thought control, true neural input versus something that's non-invasive that picks up surface, what's called electromyography, which is surface-based electricity of your skin that's generated from muscle contractions, which we call microgestures. So if you raise your eyebrow, clench your jaw, it creates a high amplitude, what's called an EMG wave, that we then pick up. Then those could be used for either a wake-up command, like if you say, "Hey Siri," "Hey Google," "Hey Alexa," those are voice recognition wake-up commands. Whereas if you just clench your jaw like that, it's almost like sending up a flare, so to speak. And then these earbuds pick that up and say, "Entering invisible user interface." And then from there, you move your head and just left and right, up and down, forward and back, just like that. Almost invisible, to navigate this invisible cursor through this invisible menu system. And then you get audio feedback along the way. And then when you're on the function that you want, just a simple jaw clench or something that's invisible, but sending that surface EMG into the system, well, then it's like the equivalent of like a double click. So the evolution from true thought control to that was based on a number of things. And first of all, just say everybody's brain waves are more unique than your fingerprint. And there was a Brown University neurologist that was actually at one time a chief of faculty at Harrisburg University, who gave me a great analogy early in my journey. And he said, the problem of thought control, or the challenge of thought control, is like this. Here's the analogy. It's as if I'm watching Netflix in my living room, in my downstairs living room, and you're standing at the end of my driveway and it's midnight. And my windows are closed, my blinds are closed, the drapes are shut. And based on the flashes of light and the color of the flashes of light, without any audio, you have to almost determine what I'm watching on Netflix and where I'm at in the movie for context, right? Very hard if you think about how hard that is. Then to make matters even more crazy, if you kind of view the house as like a person, as a body, right? Every house has a different color glass, blinds, and drapes. So it's just sounds like it's insurmountable. And also another thing is when you say thought control, there's huge confusion of what really that means. And I know in your intro you had mentioned like privacy of thought and regulatory stuff and all of that. And there's a number of important discussions going on around the world because people are worried that, geez, with the advancement of AI, are my thoughts really private? And the truth is there's a number of different, like when you say thought, what is a thought, right? If you come to think about it, are there different kinds of thoughts, etc. And I think there's more than probably 15 or 20 classifications of thoughts that have to do with future, envisioning, contemplating, past, habits, problem solving, things of that nature, which when you look at some of the raw data as far as what could be quantized into something of what you're actually thinking, almost none of that can be extrapolated in raw EEG data. In fact, almost every single thought-controlled application that any of you would probably read in your newsfeed, most of it is based in, I'm speaking in gross generalities. So if there's a PhD that all they do is this stuff, they might be able to find little nitpicks that aren't exactly accurate. But for the most part, it comes from the top quarter of your head, which is your motor cortex. So your motor cortex generates these type of signals called mu rhythms that are generally associated to imagined movement and physical movement. So if you tee up your golf ball on the first tee and you're all strapped up with electrodes, and we're actually recording this kind of thing, and you smash a ball right down the middle of the fairway, we record what all those movements look like. And what's interesting is that at the top of your motor cortex, you would normally think, as you move, things light up and kind of explode, with energy, with electricity, but it's actually quite the opposite. If you don't move at all and you're not thinking of moving at all, generally the whole top of your head lights up like a Christmas tree. And then as you move, regions go dark based on your physical or imagined movement. So what's interesting though, the way you're left or right-handed, your brain is actually left or right sphered. And if you were all strapped up trying to move a mouse cursor around, you might be able to wheel a cursor to the left easy, but maybe right to pull it back to where you started will take orders of magnitude more energy, like your veins would be popping out of your forehead. Up might be easy, down might be hard, pushing might be easy, and pulling might be hard, or any inverse of those combinations. So half of those fundamental directions would be easy, half would be fundamentally difficult. And that's because of something called hemispherical dominance. So when you pair the uniqueness of brain waves with the challenge that your brain is actually left or right handed, but there are no hands, it's just left or right kind of sphered. Like if you, for instance, George or Jay, do either of you golf? I just use that as a random.
I have once. Do you know how many golf balls I've lost in an afternoon? Was unbelievable. Like probably no, I don't. I don't play golf.
Well, I'll use this as an example then for your audience. For instance, if you were to, let's just say you're right-handed and we had you strapped up and we saw what that looked like, but then you imagine yourself. You close your eyes in your mind. You walk up to the tee. You tee your ball down. You're going through your pre-shot routine and you take your swing and you kind of envision it going down the middle of the fairway. It looks rather similar to your physical action. Now, conversely, if you close your eyes and pretend you had a left-handed driver and you tee the ball up and now you're holding the left-handed driver, do the same thing. And you can't, even in your imagination, you glitch.
Yeah.
So basically my big aha was to, instead of imagining, if the top utility of thought control were imagined directions and imagined movement, not, hey, I really have a crush on this person, or I'm hungry for a stromboli as opposed to a pizza or something like that, or I'm planning to go to Hawaii, whatever, or any kind of problem solving algorithm that you're doing in your head. Just if those fundamental directions are really the top utility, why use thought control at all? And that was my big aha. Why not just overcome hemispherical dominance and the uniqueness of brain waves by replacing those imagined up, down, left, right, forward, and back with a left, right, up, down, forward, and back through a motion sensor, and then have electrodes that you have pick up more ubiquitous signals from that surface EMG.
So what signals are you reading then directly from the brain? Is it the EEG, the EMG, or is it other modalities that you're picking up on as well?
Well, we actually pick up what's considered EXG, which is all the above. So the earbuds can pick up, in many cases, even from the inner ear, somebody's heartbeat, the ECG. We've picked up what's called EOG, which is electrooculography. So if you move your eyes left or right, those are actions that we can pick up. jaw clenches, facial electricity. But, EEG really has a different utility, I think, in this type of scenario where it could be used to track attention, monitoring, sleep quality of when you're in REM sleep, etc., things of that nature. Even a quadriplegic who has zero movement below the neck, as long as they can chew, breathe, swallow on their own, they have some degree of movement from the neck up, you're going to have a much, much better, faster experience for moving a mouse cursor around than a non-invasive EEG solution.
Mm-hmm. My very limited understanding of technology, born 76, we, ZX81 in the UK back in the 80s. I'm not a programmer, by the way. I'm good at replacing fans and things and maybe engineering a system or two for gaming. But so you have voice recognition control, gesture recognition control. How would you have you come up with a phrase for this system?
Well, you know what? I know it doesn't sound creative, but I call it. I just called it the invisible user interface at IUI because I knew there was a GUI, right?
Yeah, GUI. Yeah.
And my original work in the brain-computer interface field with those imagined directions and line patterns, at the time I couldn't find anything in the literature to describe what I had envisioned. So I almost had to make up my own terminology. So I came up with CUI, CUI, instead of a GUI, a cognition user interface, instead of a graphical user interface. And now to create this abstraction layer that picks up these biosignals from the head and allows somebody to navigate this invisible menu system to send commands and almost anything. I didn't know what to call it, so I just called it an invisible user interface. Ultimately, we've done a lot of unique things with this, from obviously controlling computers, but we've done wheelchair integrations, and proof of concepts. I've done a prototype with attention monitoring for locomotive drivers or car, drivers. One of the big things with many of these electric vehicles is autonomous driving, but you still have to kind of pay attention. So how do you guarantee that you do that? Do you use some kind of video-centric AI, which seems to be prevalent, or can you take a more objective approach from more, I'd say, objective signals from the head that might indicate somebody's lethargic? We've done drone controls. We just recently did an assistive robotic arm control.
Oh, cool.
I've also done more, I would say, if you want to call it kind of gaming integrations. For instance, before Neuralink, and I'll say Neuralink's name, by the way, I'm a big fan of everything they do, and as well as the things that Elon has contributed to the sector. But I knew, roughly 2 years ago, they were that close to putting their implant into the first human recipient. The gentleman's name's Nolan, and I knew before that they had set the bar of kind of like brain pong. Do you guys remember seeing the brain pong in your news feed? Well, even at this time, I think our prototype, our neural earbud prototype, was doing some pretty exotic stuff. So I was trying to think, what are they going to unveil, right? So I thought maybe it would go from brain pong to like Pac-Man, and then it'd be in the news feed for months or something like that. It wasn't far off. I think they launched their unveiling was chess or something like that. So I huddled up with the team, just trying to think, how do we get ahead of this and try to set a bar before all of that happens? So I came up with the idea of flying a simulated 737 in X-Plane 12, which is a top-tier consumer-grade flight simulator. It's a competitor with, say, Microsoft Flight Simulator. So just in your mind, imagine it's a full three-dimensional cockpit of switches, radios, nav systems, throttle, you name it. And had this idea, well, what if we could fly a 737 using nothing but the input from our neural earbud and then record that? Just not to ever suggest that pilots would ever fly planes with a neural earbud, but just to show that, gosh, it could technically be possible, really, especially in a simulated environment. And we did that and ended up really going viral at CES that last year. And so much so where even Satya Nadella, Microsoft's CEO, ended up coming by our startup booth at CES with his whole entourage saying, what the heck is Naki? And
Wow.
it was a little goofy. I had to explain that it wasn't Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Can we play one of these videos? Which one do you want me to show?
Sure.
For do you want me to show the one at the bottom, the Naki start engine, or the Naki flies the 737 first?
Yeah, you could. Why don't you play that one since I just mentioned that?
737. Okay.
Sure.
Beautiful.
And again, I just did that just to show you could. And interestingly, after we demonstrated at the Consumer Electronics Show, speaking to my buddy Keith and a number of other people who would be classified as quadriplegics, just hearing the excitement of their voice, thinking, "Oh my God, I'm going to fly a plane," for instance. And before that, I don't think anybody would ever have thought they could do such a thing. Certainly not without maybe multiple or many assistive input devices and mastering all of them, almost like you're riding a unicycle while juggling flaming bowling pins kind of thing. So there are people out there that could do incredible things with assistive devices, with multiple of them. But my goal was, how do you put this into a footprint or a wearable that everybody buys? For instance, you can't throw a tennis ball in any direction and not hit somebody wearing earbuds while you're walking down the street. It's orders of magnitude the number one wearable. Whereas if most of these assistive devices, you either have to put something in your mouth, hit your head into, what's called head arrays or pressure pads around somebody's wheelchair. And it really just kind of takes away their privacy and their dignity. And if they want to call their girlfriend, they have to say voice recognition, like hit a button, say, "Hey, call girlfriend or wife," in front of everybody. So I think that's one of the big things. And just want to get productivity back to the millions of people around the world who struggle to interact with technology. And just there was also a time just not too long ago, just a few months ago, when the PGA Tour 2K25, I think, just came out, that golf game. I know it's on, I think, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. And just out of curiosity, I wonder if you play golf with just a neural earbud, right? And within the first hour, I think I shot 7 under par through 9 holes. Matter of fact, it works so well. I would argue it works better than a hand controller. Like now, mind you, I have 25 years of, computer golf experience, like PlayStation experience, from like Tiger Woods 2001 onwards. So it's not as if I'm just coming in cold, but it works so well that I think even somebody of equal ability using hand controller, I don't think they would be able to beat me.
I've got a question about so the Naki Logic's earbuds, a new user, is what's the training time? Is it intuitive, or is it like you need to spend, like with voice recognition on the Windows platform, the SAPI engine, it takes a certain amount of time to get through it so it learns your voice?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think in 85-90% of the cases, somebody within the first hour, they're sending emails and doing whatever. Now that does not mean that they're at full aptitude. Like if you see me using the earbud, it's almost like, when you're immersed in it, sometimes small improvements or efficiencies that you learn could equate into huge output deltas. So I think to get up to, I'd say, comparable ability could vary from person to person and how immersed they are, but it could be anywhere from a month to 2 months maybe of immersion. Now, when I say up to my level, to give your audience an idea, I mean, I could type, between 60 and 67 characters per minute natively without predictive logic, with very low, if any, errors, full robust mouse control, the ability to click, double click, click and drag, right click and drag, right click. And I think I could use Photoshop pretty well with just the earbud. And most recently, demonstrated the ability to use AutoCAD with just the earbud. But that's not something somebody just picks up. Those subtleties, those little micro perfections that you have to do, that comes like with practice, like with anything. But it's our goal, by the way, always working on user experience. I think, one thing Steve Jobs was incredibly good at, and why he's generally thought of as a genius among geniuses as far as product design, is really based around the user experience. Like if he could just take a MacBook laptop and just flip it open, if there was any kind of time of coming out of like the hibernation, etc., he's like, not ready. And they're like, no, Steve, you don't understand. Like, this is how long the operating system takes. He's like, well, then, build another component to the operating system, predict that this happens. And that's why when you flip open a Mac, it's just boom, it's just there. And that's why the iPod, when it first came out, they're like, oh my gosh, you don't have to rewind anything, and it had a little mini menu with a circle. You just knew how to use it, right? It was like an appliance. It's just obvious. So we have to, and by the way, that science is equal to at least the science of whatever it is the product is designed around, whether it be a computer, brain-computer interface, or what you want to call a human-machine interface, which is probably a closer category to these earbuds, and how to make it anybody just obviously know how to use something and be almost as close as fast as possible to competency. It's really an art. It's a science and it's an art.
Man, that me being retired from the military, what really got me when I looked on your website was you're about helping people. You're about helping people, getting them to be their best selves. And I was blown away when I saw, the Naki wheelchair, demonstration video in there. I was like, oh my God, like this is going to change everything when it comes to this movement and them being able to do everything without a straw and everything in their mouth. Like I literally was blown away, and that's what got my attention.
Well, not trying to TMI your audience or you guys, but I grind my teeth excessively when I sleep. I'm supposed to sleep with a night guard, and I don't, because I get these wild dreams. Like I have these nightmares, like I have 3 packs of gum in my mouth and you can't spit it out, kind of thing, like real bizarre stuff. So I just kind of live with it. I hate having anything in my mouth. Now, just take a step back and imagine there's people that spend their whole life with devices in their mouth just to get through their day, not even be productive, just to be able to send an email, not send it quickly or efficiently, or maybe be able to do a PowerPoint, but might take all day to do it, for instance. The World Health Organization estimates that almost 1 out of 3 people on Earth have a digital challenge, that they have a challenge to interact with technology. And there's many reasons for that, but a huge component of that is through their inability to, for instance. And, assistive tech is nothing new. It's been out for many, many, many decades, but yet 1 out of 3 is an enormous percentage, right, on the planet. And when you hear things about brain implants, and which has really become the de facto standard narrative of what it will take to become productive again, how many people in the U.S. have that thus far? Maybe a very small number. I think 10, maybe 12, as far as some of those leading companies. We'll just say 20 to round it out. How long will it take to get to to get to Egypt or South Africa or Mongolia. And how many of these assistive devices make it to the rural areas of developing countries? They're still not there. Yet in those same developing countries, again, you can't walk down any street and people don't have earbuds in. So the World Bank actually estimated, I think 2 years ago, they had this study that came out that said if those people were able to become productive again into the workforce, it could add up to 7% to every country's GDP, regardless of size. It's an enormous number. So if there were hypothetically a billionaire said, Dave, give me all of your shares, I'll take care of your shareholders and I'll guarantee impact, I'd push that button immediately. I think the vision and purpose of the company is far beyond, hey, I'm doing this for, you hear entrepreneurs all the time. Hey, I want to do an exit and blah, blah, blah. Hopefully it's a unicorn, yada, yada, yada. But my heart is quite different. Like, I think we only have one life to live. I'd never want to be on my deathbed thinking, what if? I'd always want to pay into karma, not pull out of it. And it's all about impact. And by the way, if I had a nickel for every time an investor said, I'd probably invest if your beachhead market weren't the accessibility market, because it's smaller than, say, the gaming market. Like if you were just launching these neural earbuds so people could shoot where they're looking in Call of Duty and change gun, even while they're holding the controller, it would greatly improve gaming and esports. I'd be in. But they don't understand that it would never be as elegant as it is by mastering that accessibility market first. It's the hardest. It's the biggest mountain to climb. And by mastering that user experience and that type of input for somebody with zero movement below the neck, by the time it gets into some 16-year-old's ear who plays Fortnite or Call of Duty or Battlefield or something like that, it's going to be so much more magical. And really all of this kind of dissolves and kind of comes into and funnels into what is really a human AI interface. It all comes down to when you command, control, and navigate computers and connected devices in a very inconspicuous, silent, nearly invisible manner. Really, that device is really technology. And it could be easily a human AI interface where you have a bidirectional, I would say, input or relationship with your AI, conversational AI agent, but not so much with voice. And there's some even technologies out there trying to do like silent voice, subvocal voice input for device control. And that's great for commands, etc. But imagine how hard it would be to do, let's just say, Photoshop with voice commands only. Or can you play Fortnite with voice commands only? I'm not saying any one's better than the other, but I think there's a synergy. Like, I think this technology all comes together in almost a small core tech environment of multiple types of technology, where many people in your audience probably remember Knight Rider, for instance, with Kit. Yeah. And that, like, when I was a kid, and I was born in 1977, that was like my favorite show. And Kit is, instead of being in a Trans Am, it's going to be in your ear. And some of you may have seen that movie, Her, with Joaquin Phoenix, with this gentleman who pretty much falls in love with his AI earbud. And imagine kind of that, but multidimensional, because the earbud should know really what your activity is at that moment, might even know your biometric values of whether it be your heart, blood pressure. If you're rolling your eyes, maybe through the EOG signals, know that you're rolling your eyes. It might infer, although it's not reading your mind, it might infer that you're either bored or frustrated, or if you're kind of angry and you kind of crunch your brow down, that would kind of create a signal that through that type of biometric contextual data might infer that you're angry, frustrated, might say, hey, Jay, what's wrong, from your AI earbud. And might even know that, for me, I'm an asthmatic, for instance. If there's like I hate to use this example, but it's like the world we live in. But like there's a shooter out in the street or something like that, that it might know that, oh my God, Dave, there's a guy with a gun 2 blocks away heading your way. You're never gonna outrun. Why don't you just jump into a pond somewhere or something? Because it might know I can't exit the scene and
be like safety of the user. Yeah, it would be like safety of the user, based off of that.
And yeah, you would gyroscopically kind of know where you're looking, how long you're looking there for. You can create even inanimate objects could be intelligent. So I filed some IP around what I call site vector objects. So maybe a building might know that not just proximity, right? Because there's a lot of proximity-based systems out there. Like if you have a key fob and I'm near the Mona Lisa, it might know I'm near the Mona Lisa and therefore kind of tell you the history about it. But what if you're near a building and nothing happens while you're walking your dog? But if I look at it and glance over at this restaurant, this cafe, nothing happens. But maybe if I look at it for a qualifying amount of time, maybe that cafe is a site vector object, for instance, might become aware that a human is engaged with it and might say, hey, Dave, I know you love Greek salads, for instance, and we're running a lunch special. You've never been here before. And if you'd like to stop in, maybe we'll give you 25% off, for visiting us for a first time. Or if you've ever been in New York City, you're not quite sure where the trains are or the subway comes. Maybe if you look at a particular track, it tells you when the track's coming. So it's not just the intelligence of your own body, but your intelligence, almost like an AI layer to help you interface with an intelligent environment. So you start with controlling devices, hands-free, voice-free, screen-free, and there's an AI layer around that. But then that AI layer, the flip side of that coin, then looks at you as far as passive health monitoring. And then that same AI layer helps you interact with, say, a smart city, smart environment. But that's really, it all comes down to really how humans interact with artificial intelligence.
Okay. I really want to play this video about Naki wheelchair.
No, go ahead. Sure.
It's the breakthrough to control the digital devices all around us. The Naki-powered earbud control a wheelchair and other mobility devices with subtle facial micro-gestures or head movements. The Naki earbud senses the signals from micro-gestures and movements. It turns them into instantaneous commands. Replace the mouse, traditional joysticks, keyboards, voice commands, and puff straw technologies with touch-free and voice-free commands. Naki. It's the earbud technology that changes everything.
Just imagine like a user in a wheelchair can maybe roll to a PC, control the PC. And in the meantime, I think, gosh, it's kind of warm in here. Then just flex their jaw like that. And all of a sudden, can you enter the invisible UI, go to the thermostat, turn the temperature down, might even turn the ceiling fan on there. Wow. And then no voice commands, no hitting your head or into anything, no devices in your mouth, just using something as inconspicuous as an earbud.
Really, I just want to say thank you for championing accessibility globally. It's a heck of a thing. Obviously, things that are more readily available for most people, such as earbuds, is going to hopefully bring more intelligence to the table, more contribution to the table, more minds and souls to the discussion. Obviously, like, based out of the UK, and just the Professor Stephen Hawking obviously is a kind of just one individual, and I wonder how many more Hawkings are out there waiting for this technology and other technologies moving forwards to be able to contribute into science, into everything. So yeah, like getting a bit emotional here. Sorry, but yeah, I think kind of, and also, like more contestants online, right? Because when the science work is over, when the work's over for the day, when you've sent your emails, no matter how long it's taken, if you can sit down and unwind with the video game, it's bringing quality of life to people as well, so. Yeah,
I totally agree.
yeah.
So, how close are we to truly invisible interfaces people can use everywhere?
Oh, that's a heavy question that people could use everywhere. So these earbuds do not magically control other devices. There needs to be an integration of some kind with our integration toolkits. My dream, by the way, is to have really like a Nokia store, so to speak, and to open up our developer kits to the whole planet and allow everybody to create integrations into the devices and information systems that matter most to them. And I think and then allow them to post it in store and sell it or give it away for free or whatever. And I think by doing such a thing and putting humanity in charge of where this type of technology goes will be the fastest way to create true global impact in the way that you're describing. Because a lot of things have to happen before you just go to an airport and they know you're wearing a Nokia earbud or a Nokia enabled earbud. Because, I'm just as happy and we're just as happy as a company just to, license the technology to major OEMs and let them integrate into what they do and not have that, I don't want to say burden of building small electronic wearables, but it's many in your audience who have ever been involved in such a thing know what kind of lift that is. But again, our goal is to create the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time. One thing, by the way, Jay and George, you guys mentioned at the very beginning that is worthwhile mentioning was like that whole, like that privacy of thought, regulatory stuff, et cetera, because, there's so many discussions going around globally right now. And whenever you say, I just know people in your audience are thinking, gosh, these things are reading everybody's thoughts. And it's not what you think, especially non-invasively, but even invasively. The gamut and limitations of what you can make sense of in brainwave data. Because truthfully, it all looks like static in a way, which is really interesting. No matter, I've tried everything from, going from listening to Elton John to listening to Metallica or Ozzy to see if your brainwaves look different, or watch a chick flick with my wife, or to watch something like that's super scary, or maybe something like Platoon or Full Metal Jacket. It pretty much looks the same, regardless of what I think about it. Pretty much looks the same, outside of like the motor cortex, etc. But it all comes down to a question of like, at least with me, when I go to bed at night thinking about every single day is, what the hell is consciousness, right? And now I knew I'd perk you guys up, with the whole consciousness discussion, because really, when you go down to a quantum level, right, really what you have at a quantum level, I don't care if you're talking outside of a string theory, a theorist or something. When you look at quantum physics specifically over quantum mechanics, you have fundamental charge. Fundamental charge in the form of negative charge of an electron, and a positron as far as fundamental positive charge. And these are oscillating almost spheres of charge that kind of orbit these other fundamental systems of charge almost at a relativistic speed of light at a sub-femtometer range. And you have to think to yourself, after you start studying these types of systems, like, then where am I? Because if at an atomic level, like my brain, blood, bones, skin looks no different than many of the atoms of this wooden desk that's holding my laptop, then where am I? Where is me? And when you ask anybody that is a cognitive neuroscientist and you ask them what is consciousness, you're going to get a different answer probably from person to person. And certainly nobody understands the true nature of consciousness. It very well may be possible that we're not allowed to know, or it depends if you think we're whether it's intelligent design, or we live in a simulation, or the Matrix, or if this is all primordial soup from a big bang. If you're an atheist or agnostic, really it all comes down to where am I? And because of that, I think for the foreseeable future, even things that are labeled as thought control, et cetera, or neural input, I think there's very low. I'm unsure if it's crackable, I'll put it that way. And if it is, then it'll take a very advanced AGI to crack that.
So is there variations though between different people's neural brain signals that you can see, or is it mostly the same between?
Oh, I think they're all different, but
Okay.
the nature, I would say the nature of what you're looking at is predictable of the type of neural interaction that you're looking for.
Okay.
If that makes it. It's almost like, you're looking for a butterfly and whether or not it's a monarch or some other kind. Oh, that's a butterfly. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So hopefully that makes sense.
So you're sitting there and you're like, you're looking at it. You're reading the signals and everything, and you can determine what signals are doing which for which movement is actually creating these signals, and then determine off of that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. So now I think I understand your question.
Yeah.
So there would have to be some type of what I'd consider a primer, if you want to call it biotraining, some kind of initial definition where you kind of say, okay, try to almost look at that mouse cursor and try to move it with your mind to the left when I say go, or when the light turns green or comes on, try to almost Luke Skywalker in the Dagobah swamp with Yoda on your back, stare at that cursor and try to move it to the left. What's interesting, like if you guys have bottled water in front of you, I use this analogy all the time. You try to like move that bottled water with your mind. And when we're kids, I guarantee, I don't care who's in your audience, you could ridicule me all you want when you're in like second, third grade and their pencils kind of sitting on your desk. You're always thinking to yourself, I wonder if I'm the one. You try to stare at it and see if you can move it. Have you done? Am I the only weirdo?
No.
Most people that are honest have said, yeah, Dave, I've tried to move something with my mind, because you just never know. But what's interesting is if you're all strapped up, as long as there's been that initial training, I could tell if you're trying to push the bottle of water, pull it towards you, slide it to the left, slide it to the right, make it go up, make it go down, etc. And then, with that, with additional machine learning algorithms that improve over time, it becomes more and more effective. I'll say it that way. But if you take that, even if you have a full scalp EEG, like for instance, Jay, if you and I spend a whole morning or afternoon doing that type of biotraining, the moment we put it on George's head, won't work at all.
So like I think you mentioned earlier about almost like a unique thumbprint for each individual's what we call it, ghost in the machine, so to speak, on a mind level. Okay, so a bit earlier you said like it took about roughly, depending on the individual, maybe an hour's kind of getting used to the device to be able to perhaps send an email. And then you said, mastery, like we're, flying a jumbo jet, might take a bit more time to really get to grips with the system. Does the system have like a recursive learning, so it learns you as you're moving forwards with it? I mean, I don't know if that's integrated in at all.
Well, absolutely, but it's going to be more integrated. We've built the foundation of this platform, because it's not just an earbud, there's a whole platform around it that is really based on that type of machine learning. And you have to start early with exactly as you described it, because if you monolithically just design something with a particular feature set of capability, if you go a year or two down that road and then think, oh my God, I'm doing this the wrong way, I really want to have this improve itself over time using AI and machine learning, to implement that could be so expensive and time consuming. It could almost put more effort into, you almost have to start from scratch. So knowing that, I think the end game is a human AI interface. We've built everything around that. And it's almost like pulling off the leaves of a flower that hasn't quite opened yet. You don't open that flower all the way on day one. You just kind of peel a petal or two back, make sure that we're getting user feedback that we're doing the right thing, then peel another petal back. And then next thing you know, you have the first, circumference of the outer layer of petals open. Then you start working on the next, almost like you're coming into the bullseye, each ring at a time. But you have to take that approach, I think, if you're vectoring towards what I had mentioned of that silent, invisible, bidirectional human AI interface.
What feedback are you hearing from first-time users of your device?
Very positive, very, very positive. We most recently went to what's called the Abilities Conference in New York, And we're just having people come into our booth for the first time, actually, randomly put on the earbud and try to use the computer. And we were recording it just to see what would happen. I would venture to say not 100%, because there were some people that I think had things like more advanced stages of Parkinson's, and maybe some people had ALS as far as to a point where it wasn't conducive. But anybody that I would say had a command of their head, I think we had 100% of that population. And we actually recorded just doing exit interviews of what people thought. And no matter how hard a tech startup is, I think when you see how it impacts those that live with these certain conditions, it certainly gives you the energy required to, like if you're at base camp 2 at Everest, that and you feel like going back to the regular base camp, it gives you the energy to keep climbing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's, you know, I'd like to see a Naki Logic store online with my service provider for my mobile phone, right? I want, you know, like I want to see these things transmit. Before that, I want to see, like, you know, the ability for, you know, again, accessibility is a primary goal here, instead of just like, you know, but you know, and also massive congratulations to from me and Jay for winning the CES Consumer Electronics Show's Best Innovation Award. I mean, wow. And to have, like, I think you said earlier, Microsoft came up to you and like, okay, you're not using Microsoft FlightX, but we're very interested in talking to you. So many big things happening for you, and just all the way back to having that persistent vision to enable people and to help people is absolutely to your credit, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we've been very lucky, by the way, with those awards. I'm very cautious with even telling anybody, because, you know, you can't pay your OPEX with trophies, so to speak. And the ultimate award is the impact that you're trying to create. But, you know, to be chosen for Best of Innovation at CES is a lifetime achievement. I mean, you can go your whole life and not win that. So I'm very humbled. In just the other year, we won a gold medal at the Edison Awards, which is a red carpet. It's almost like the Oscars of global tech. And the Gwen Shotwell is the COO of SpaceX, won a gold medal. Then Dr. Laurie Leshin, who's the managing director of Jet Propulsion Laboratories. And then the very last award of the evening, we ended up winning gold medal for social and cultural impact. Very humbling. First thing I did is call my mom and dad. Hey, and Time Magazine selected us as one of the best inventions of the year. So we're very, very lucky. But again, you can't pay bills with trophies. You can't create impact with trophies. And if any of your audience is moved by any of this, you know, we're a baby startup, so to speak, and the baby always needs to be fed. And if you ever want to come along with us on a journey, just visit us on our website at nakilogics.com, and it's NAQILOGIX.com, and just click contact us, for instance. Say, hey, heard you on the podcast, and, you know, might want to invest or help in other ways. You know, you don't have to invest. Maybe it's just, hey, maybe I can make a connection for you. Every little thing helps.
That's cool. Can we follow you on any other social media as well? Or
I'm only on LinkedIn.
Right. Okay.
I for many reasons, just because I feel I'm more productive not being on social media. LinkedIn is, you know, you have to be on LinkedIn for businesses, etc. And I have an X account, but only to kind of lurk.
I'll spread the word. I think like it led on to my question is how can the viewer, how can we get more involved and help out and like really push this out? So, you know, like the analogy of the baby, like needing food and things to keep going. I think that, like, you know, this is not pie in the sky. This is absolutely real. It's real technology. You've won awards for it. We want to like roll this out in the you know, have you got the business plan, so to speak? I mean, I'm sure is there.
We have we have a 120 page monolithic plan that, if you hand it off to like a Goldman Sachs, somebody like that might love it. But I'm different though. I think I go by the Mike Tyson school of business. Like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, I have to be dynamic and, go off the cuff and make adjustments. And to some degree, I know this sounds hocus pocus, but I like to kind of follow my heart and follow where the universe takes us kind of thing. And sometimes, what might just seem like, geez, what are the odds of that person reaching out? And all of a sudden that was a crucial connection. Even if it seemed like there was no utility at that moment, maybe 3 months go by and then you meet somebody else where you were like, wait a minute, that person, you make that connection and all of a sudden, boom, the whole company makes another quantum leap advancement. So I'm always searching for universal signals and I love meeting new people.
Cool.
So can the system adapt to different moods, fatigue, stress, medication, or is the signal?
Not yet. Well, that's the goal, Jay. That's the goal. Not yet. You have to kind of crawl before you walk.
Yeah, you're getting the data.
Yeah, exactly. And you getting back to regulatory stuff. We want to be very, very cautious in how we use biometric data, especially not to store or use types of data that may not have utility for what we're doing at that exact moment. But again, the flip side to any coin that allows for hands-free, voice-free, screen-free control of a device, the very same type of device, just by default, really should allow you to have visibility into those types of biometric data and look at it in an intelligent way. And a lot of the laws and policies, depending on what state you're in or what country you're in, a lot of these are being written now. So I understand the concern of privacy of thought, but I'm, what brain electricity looks like or brain activity to me is you don't get to see the thought, you get to see the reflection or the shadow of thought, right? So if you see a shadow that has a particular shape, there could be N number of things in the universe that could make that. And how do you know it's that one, any one of N? Now, I know that's an extreme comment, and that doesn't apply to any and all types of EEG interpretation, but it gets into that, how do you quantize consciousness?
Yeah. I mean, you have intentional thought, I believe, and non-intentional thought, like it just comes to you.
It's way crazier than I think a non-invasive device will begin to tackle in my lifetime.
Yeah.
If at all, it's within the gamut of what's accessible. So I kind of use a Pac-Man. I call it my Pac-Man theorem. Like if we're Pac-Man, like when you put in a quarter, you hear that, I know I'm dating myself with Pac-Man. You hear the dun 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 dun, and all of a sudden it goes chomp 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 chomp, and you're like, oh my god, Pac-Man's looking around in his two-dimensional world, thinking, oh my god, these ghosts are coming at me, and eventually you get, one of them touches you, and you kind of die, and then you're on your second life. You're like, gee, don't want to do that, don't want to make that mistake again. So now you're trying to avoid that. But if you could ever get away from the ghosts, long enough where you can kind of stop and smell the roses, maybe Pac-Man in his two-dimensional world looks at the pixels of a wall, and if he has enough time and can stay away from the ghost, kind of look at it carefully and can measure it, might see that the pixels are kind of flashing at maybe 60 hertz or 100 hertz, and looks at all the pixels and they're all flashing in unison. Might be able to extrapolate, for instance, that, maybe I'm in a computed environment or reality, right? And you touch the ghost the third time, he folds in half and game over, and like Pac-Man's now dying or dead. What happened to the information? I happen to come from a school of thought that I think that the knowledge and experience may not even be in Pac-Man. It might be in the consciousness that's outside of the system, for instance. Now, this is all my conjecture, right? But, no matter what Pac-Man does, Pac-Man can't do anything ever to be able to look at the circuit boards, the wiring, the electrical, whatever. It's not available to him. And in that way, consciousness may just not be available to us. You could only infer certain things, just like we have to almost infer or interpret the various signals from the brain, but that's not to be confused with consciousness or the nature of consciousness.
I think just the concept of conscious direction of the Internet of Things, to be able to walk through that sea of digital data, sending outputting as much as, transmission of zeros and ones over my head, to be able to walk around and interface with the computer, these kind of things. I think, this is my personal view. The privacy conversation that's taking place in the wider world at the moment is needed.
Mm-hmm.
However, somebody, I would imagine somebody who has a hard time communicating in any shape or form, heck, give me that, here's the biometrics. Now, okay, how many times do we purchase a new mobile phone, right? A new smartphone, cell phone? And do people read the end user license agreement, the complete text, and every single application?
I'm crazy. I actually read every one. I'm crazy.
Okay.
Now, statistically, nobody reads it, by the way. But
Probably
conspiracy. So I think everybody's out to get me. So I try to read everything. But you're exactly right. But I've come full circle. I've had big opinions on both sides of the fence as far as privacy of thought. And I've now fallen on the side of better to be safe than sorry. It doesn't hurt to incorporate laws and regulation around how governments or companies or institutions capture, interpret, store, and compute biometric data for various levels of control or intelligence, because it's almost like HIPAA or GDPR. So that, in the EU, sometimes it's just better to encrypt it and know that it's not being used in nefarious ways. Because I think when all of us have, if you remember the first time you've actually used ChatGPT as an example, go back a couple of years. You remember how your mind was blown at that time? Like, oh my God, changed everything, right? And then look today to see whether it be ChatGPT, Grok, etc., or as orders of magnitude better. That's just in 2 or 3 years, right? Yeah. So the reason why I've kind of evolved in my positioning on that is, if somebody's going to crack consciousness, it's going to be AI. It's not going to be in person. I mean, I'd venture to say I'd bet my life on it. But never want to bet your life on anything. But if you were, that'd be a pretty good bet. It'd be an advanced AI, and it's accelerating to the point where if there is a pattern where you could quantize amongst that ocean of electrical noise, and there's patterns within all that ocean of static, then it's going to be AI that cracks that, I think. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. I biometrics and these kind of things. I think if a bad example is again voice recognition on Windows, I can create a file of me so that if I reinstall the system or I upgrade to a different system, I can move that file across. It's got my training data. I don't need to train it all again, right? So on a device which has implicit training systems involved, it makes sense to have that information so that it can move on to version 2, version 3, etc., and translate across over space and time.
Uniqueness can be a feature, not a bug. Also, for instance, you have multi-factor authentication, etc., and you encrypt data from your device to whatever. But how do you triple factor in a way that it can't be beat? Fingerprint readers can be beat. Facial recognition can be beat. But how do you create a impenetrable bio-validation layer? In the way you're have a blue check on X, for instance, and you're validated. Imagine what that would do to scammers. When I'll call from Wells Fargo, so it appears comes through, even though it's coming from some foreign country. Imagine what it would do if they did or did not have a blue check, because that person on the other end is bio-validated to be an employee of a Wells Fargo, not just somebody that hacked in and fished credentials out, something of that nature. So I think, progress in this field could be hugely beneficial. There's more benefits than the fear mongering of, oh my gosh, if my company finds out what I'm thinking during a situation, then maybe they could have adverse effects just based on what I'm thinking, adverse actions, so to speak. That's off in the future, but I think bio-validation is something I think is within reach as far as something that is built within a consumer wearable.
So a self-perpetual learning machine, pretty much, that encodes itself for your biometrics that you
Yeah. Exactly. So that's the vision.
It makes sense. It does. It makes perfect sense. A self-perpetuating learning AI machine that will help you communicate with the outside world based off.
Well, it's happening now. Even
it's already happening.
I mean, you see these various AI agents built into earbuds, as far as voice interactions or AR glasses, etc. But I think as that tech becomes more and more invisible, imagine like an earbud that's so small it's like a hearing aid. That is a very powerful AI conversational agent, right? And imagine through that device you have the ability to freely interact with it. Now, if you're in a meeting and you come with some amazing answer or something, is that from you? Is it from, is that your AI talking? And if nobody sees any devices, it's going to be hard to tell the difference. That's really where that whole line in the sand of augmentation comes from. Augmentation, in my opinion, isn't wearing, just say glasses that, like, I'll use Google Glasses just as an example, because everybody knows if I come with some crazy trivia answer in a business meeting, or I knew the 10K numbers from 3 years ago, it's Dave's glasses, right? But if you can't visibly see anything, geez, is Dave really that smart? Now you're augmented. Somebody if they have to ask the question, then you're augmented. So the value of these types of interfaces go exponential, just vertically, the smaller and more inconspicuous they become.
Yeah. I want to play another video here. I just don't know which one I want to play yet. Which one should we play, Dave?
Oh, geez, there's a bunch.
The Edison, the BBC Global News.
Well, that's not a video. That's just kind of a podcast recording from the BBC World News.
America's Next Invention.
You can click that if you'd like. It's kind of like a television commercial that we ran on CNBC.
Okay.
Commercial announcement sponsored by America's Next Investment. Humanoid robots, brain implants, AI-powered medical devices. Well, a multi-billion-dollar race is underway to control the future of technology by putting chips inside people. What if the future didn't need surgery? Introducing Naki-Logix, a revolutionary leap in neurotech that you can invest in. Hands-free, voice-free, screen-free, implant-free. Naki-Logix' patented interface adapts to users through microfacial gestures, a historic breakthrough already used to pilot a simulated Boeing 737 and called one of Time Magazine's best innovations of the year.
We're developing the technology on a basis that can scale, integrating the technology in as many earbuds for as many applications as possible.
With 27 global patents backing from billion-dollar biotech veterans, Naki-Logix is aiming to disrupt a $2.6 trillion market.
There are no technologies that rival Naki.
Naki-Logix is poised to launch globally, and now offering investors a chance to join at the ground level. Call now to discover how to invest in Naki-Logix.
And you could probably stop there because it goes on quite a while.
Yep, that's fine. We can stop it there. But yeah, that's incredible. I mean, just sitting there and thinking that you're helping so many people is just incredible too. Like you said, they come and some people do it for, that they can't do these things, and now you're going to go into the field that they can do esports now as well too.
Imagine, I hate to use the term game changer, but imagine spending your whole life not being able to play PlayStation, Xbox, or PC games with your friends. You're always on the sidelines looking in because of a certain, physical challenge that you might have, or a physical condition you might have. And then just being able to put in an earbud and maybe beating them. So if somebody were to play, I would say, at a pretty decent aptitude with his golf games, the way I described, imagine somebody with zero movement below the neck beating half the world online in those golf tournaments.
Yeah.
It changes everything. It changes everything.
Bring more.
I won't stop till those who suffer from those types of physical conditions, or live with, I shouldn't say suffer. That's a bad term, because, some of the most positive, forward-thinking people I've ever met are some people with some of these physical challenges that really they don't look at it as a disability. They're just, I know this term's beaten up, but differently able. They've used it as a feature, not a bug, again, and they figure what they can do and be the best at it. And if they can do this, I bet most of those people would be the best at it. And that's what keeps me engaged and motivated.
That's wonderful. Now, what about getting into like the building and the scaling of it? What does responsible scaling look like for neural devices, neural interfaces?
When you say responsible scaling, give me an example.
Responsible scaling is in you're testing, making sure it's not going to Elon Musk has an implant. He has it in somebody's head. Obviously, he would, look for responsible scaling to a point where it's like, I'm not going to put this in somebody's head and have it fry.
I got you. There's layers of regulatory compliance that go beyond what a company like ours would want to do. For instance, anything, the bar of measure is health, wellness, and safety. Health, well-being, and safety of the population. And the moment you enter a circle of that, then whether or not you're in the United States or where we're based in Canada, and I'm sure Europe and the European Union is very similar to this. You have to have professional engineers, licensed professional engineers, that from the moment of ideation to you're the first manufacturing run have to oversee everything and safety check everything, and eventually sign off, while a regulatory oversight body of that country, you have to report in and to make sure that it is safe, because you can't just build a earbud that somebody wants to use for wheelchair drive control, and all of a sudden it falls out of their ear and they get run into traffic randomly or something like that. So that type of scaling, as you describe it, in many ways are handled through various checks and balances, whether it be like professional engineering associations, whether it be in Canada, United States, North America, etc., EU, equivalent of FDA, Food and Drug Administration, to go through their certification processes of various degrees. But the very quickest way to lose everything is somebody gets harmed from your wearable, right? So scaling, as you describe it, I don't think we would even get involved in directly of those types of applications, because we could do almost anything with the earbuds, but anything that would fall into something, I'll just use wheelchairs as an example. We would partner with a leading global wheelchair company, and then work as a licensing partner, and they who would know how to navigate these regulatory bodies would do that directly with us, almost like a bobsled team. We're kind of lined up behind them and pushing from behind, but under their guidance and the guidance of the regulatory.
Okay.
Well, that's a great question, but safety and wellness, et cetera, of our users, top concern.
Yeah. And what surprised you the most about building a business like this in this space?
What surprised me the most? Oh, I think how much money it cost to build a product. You know, I thought naively at the very beginning, hey, I'm going to raise like $5 million. I'm going to start selling earbuds, right? It's like hardly a down payment, not even to get started. But it's like one of those things, like you're climbing this mountain up to the cloud layer, and you think like the top of the mountain's just right above, and you get above the cloud layer, and you're like at the base camp 2, right? You're like, oh my gosh, but it's probably more effort to climb down than it is just to go ahead and get to the top of the mountain. And I think with all the people that we met within the community, I would never live with myself if I let them down and thought, oh, this climb's too hard or it's taking too long, therefore I quit. I think the value of impact, again, is so great that we have to succeed. There's no alternative. So I think that's my biggest surprise. It's really hard. It costs a lot of money. The science is not hard. As shocking as that might sound to your audience, the science actually gets figured out relatively quickly. It's how do you build a product that anybody could unbox buying from your favorite retailer, bring home, unbox it without calling for training or being immersed into tutorials. Can they just unbox it and put it in and just intuitively know how to use it? And it's that level of intelligence and there's a ton that goes into that, by the way. Just you have to have a very intelligent device that can infer through contextual information, what somebody's situation is. And, people are worried about privacy of thought. I argue, heck, there's way more dangerous stuff than that. Heck, we could just talk about like golfing from earlier, right? That teeing off on a golf hole as an example. And the next thing you know, when you open up Facebook, you're going to probably have advertisements for golf clubs or same thing. And, some of the other social media platforms, or maybe even some of your leading online retailers will just put that in your feed or even in your news feed, your news app, right? As you're scrolling your news, might even see golf clubs in there. So all of that contextual data, they know when you're walking, jogging, running, when you're driving, they know when you're sitting at home, they know what you're talking about, they know everything. And through all of those data points, you can actually infer who somebody is, what they do, what they would statistically think about from various categories and thought frameworks, etc., and be quite accurate, very, very accurate. So I would say, geez, what's more dangerous? Trying to read this damn fuzzy brainwave data, or every time you say any Tom, Dick, and Harry word that comes out of your mouth, these companies are marketing exactly to that or whatever activity that you're doing. They know you anyway. But nobody seems to be wanting to make any of that illegal, right? Which is a little different. So
I'm going to do 3 more questions for you. Then we'll go into viewer questions here. What would you like your legacy to be in this space?
I think my legacy would just be somebody who didn't quit and creates impact. On one side of the coin, not quitting to get to impact, and number 2, achieving impact. That's it.
And biggest opportunity ahead, biggest risk ahead.
Biggest opportunity ahead, I think, is partnering with major leading tech companies, many of which have already reached out to us and started to engage with us. But that's I think the biggest opportunity is to create global impact through companies that are already making impact with their technology and wearables. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The biggest risk is running out of money. It's always money based. If somebody said, hey, if hypothetically Elon would knock on the door, say, Dave, you have unlimited money, show me what you can do. I would create technology that would just blow everybody's eyes right out of their skull in amazement. It's not a execution issue. It's not a science issue or R&D issue. It's a money issue. And I'll leave it at that.
It's always the issue when it comes to that.
But it's not a execution or knowledge or what to do issue. It's always money.
Okay. And we have a question here from Popstar. How about ambidextrous people? Do they respond differently to the tech?
That's a great question. On true thought control, they would. If I had you on a non-invasive EEG or using something like that, and I always say non-invasive because I'm not involved in implants. When I say you'd struggle with half of your fundamental directions, ambidextrous people would likely have a more closer to equalization. I'm unsure if there's such thing as a true ambidextrous person. And there's always, to some degree, even visually, they look like they are truly ambidextrous, but there's always one side that's like slightly better. It's like a crab with a big claw and a little claw. You always have one claw that's always a little bit better, but it's always a lot more ambidextrous. And I would say ubiquitous in your directions than somebody who's not. But the reason why I went to something that was not imagined as far as the directional input and just using your very subtle head movements like this is because it's universal from person to person. It doesn't matter if you're ambidextrous or not, you would net the same result. But that's a great question.
Which leads me to another question, Planet Popstar. Are some people getting better results than others when using the device? I'm thinking there could be a link with psionic abilities.
Yeah, but I don't think it's psionic as it is aptitude. And I hate to call it coordination, but think of it this way. How accurate you are versus how much head movement. I mean, I could control a computer with almost no head movement like this, and I'm operating within a realm of like 2 degrees in any direction, just like this. And I've done it through immersion, where somebody else might have to have way more macro movements. So it comes down to understanding, I think, just that head-based neck coordination, if you would. And the more you use it, the smaller you want your window of movement to be. You always evolve into less movement, which is more efficient and faster with practice. But that's a good question. And by the way, when you get into like psionic, I know this is outside of the gamut of this talk. I don't know what I don't know with any of that. But one thing I do know is from what I've seen in some of the news and what these jets are following, and God knows where over these oceans, that I don't know what I don't know. So I'm open to anything until I see it.
I'm going to reword this question, but some people are hard on their electronics. Now, I'm going to say some people, when they're around electronics, watches stop, batteries will drain if they're around. Like, how would this work with those people? Like, say, like for instance, like I know some people have different electrical impulses that come off of their body. Okay. And some people actually, if they're around phones or other electronics, they can affect them and they can't be around like phones or it might do something to it.
That's a really good question. There's different types of certifications you get as far as like drop tests, how water resistant something is. If it's just something you can kind of wear in a shower or jump in a pool. If you can get in a pool, can you dive down to 30 feet in an Olympic pool or something and have the thing still work? There's all these different various certifications. I think on our initial beachhead market, which is really accessibility, that type of roughness or hardness that you're describing probably wouldn't be as prevalent. However, once we grow beyond that into gaming, frankly, I know me, because I know not me per se, but I've been a gamer my whole life, and I've been around people that get very passionate. And I would think maybe the earbud has to survive, get thrown against a wall if somebody gets sniped from across the city in Call of Duty or something, or shot through a wall. You just never know. But these are not going to be inexpensive earbuds, by the way. So I would think people would treat them with care.
Okay.
That's a very good question.
Yeah. And is there a fail safe in the device if something happens? Like someone has
that's a great question. Yeah. These absolutely. That's that intelligence layer that we were describing, Jay, earlier. We have to master that if we're within that circle of health, safety, wellness that I described earlier. The moment you are within that universe of affecting or impacting those how safe somebody is, you must have that. It's not even a feat. It's not even an option.
Okay.
You must have that. So I would just with confidence say that anything that we hit the market with within that circle will have that, or just won't get through regulatory compliance.
Yeah, exactly. And George, do you have any questions?
I'm, like this has been eye-opening on multiple levels for me today, or mind-opening even, if you want to put it that in that expression. I've learned things such as kind of never giving up and kind of just going for the dream that you like want to help people. And like I have friends in many different areas, and the people who intrinsically want to help other people, I'm always behind them 100%. I just want to say thanks, Dave, for coming in today.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's really, I'm a big fan of your podcasts. I've been friends with Jay for a while, and been watching what you guys are doing, and I'm just it's a pleasure really.
Well, thank you, man.
To be on it and to contribute.
Thank you very much, man. And I will give the last like minute or two to you, and then we'll close it down. Me and George will close it down, and you're able to leave as you see fit.
No, I don't have much to say to your audience other than thank you for taking the time to listen to our discussion. And again, you could find me on LinkedIn. You could search for my name under Dave Segal, Segal. Visit our website at naqilogix.com. And if you'd like to go along for the journey, doesn't matter if you think you could help us with connections, or if you'd like to be an investor and join our investor community, please reach out and do so on our website. And I would love to meet you.
Cool.
Sounds awesome, man. Thank you for being on here. Me and George will close it out.
Sounds good.
George, that was amazing, man. Like,
yeah, I mean, like my kind of take on the device, and going all the way back, just Googling BrainGate, looking at information on EEGs, running the way through, thinking there's something here, there is a there, I can do this. I'm not a programmer, but I imagine kind of the lines of code that Dave has written over the years is just like, and then having like a serendipitous moment of understanding. It's a heck of a joy. I really enjoy doing these shows with you, Jay. It's an honor. It's always an honor meeting some really interesting people on some level, some of the conversations we have are quite etheric, out there, like etheric conversations. Dave's got the physical, it's there, it's happening now. It's just like, wow, to meet somebody like there at that point is always just an amazing thing. Always just an amazing thing.
So the reason why I took off the banner at the bottom was so that we can continue the conversation just a little bit longer, so that people don't construe the podcast, because that was focused on technology and innovation. But now George was pretty mad about this one today.
Well, it's just the way the world works sometimes. I think maybe, on one level I missed out, on another level it was destined for you, Jay.
I guess so. I was on with Nick Pope, and Nick has a very special message for the Galactic Family Podcast for us. And I just want to play that for you.
Yeah. Bless up.
I'm Nick Pope. Thank you for watching the Galactic Family Podcast. For those of you who may not know me, I previously worked at the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defence, where I was responsible for researching and investigating reports of unidentified anomalous phenomena, what many people refer to as UFOs. My role required careful analysis, objectivity, and an understanding that sometimes the most important questions are the ones we cannot immediately answer. Today, we find ourselves living in a remarkable moment in human history. For decades, the subject of UFOs existed largely on the fringes, dismissed, misunderstood, or confined to speculation and science fiction. But that has changed. Governments have acknowledged that unidentified objects exist in our skies that cannot always be easily explained. Military personnel have come forward with credible testimony. Scientists have begun to take the subject seriously, not as a matter of belief, but as a matter worthy of investigation. This shift represents something profound. It represents a willingness to confront uncertainty. It represents a recognition that our understanding of the universe is still incomplete. And perhaps most importantly, it represents the enduring human instinct to explore, to look up at the sky and ask, what else is out there? But this journey of discovery isn't limited to governments, scientists, or military institutions. It belongs to all of us. Platforms like the Galactic Family Podcast play an important role in this process because they create the space for open dialogue where ideas can be explored, experiences can be shared, and questions can be asked. Progress has always depended on curiosity. Every major breakthrough in human history began with someone willing to question what was known and to consider what might be possible. Of course, curiosity must be balanced with critical thinking. Not every mystery has an extraordinary explanation. Not every unknown is evidence of something beyond our current understanding. But it's equally important that we do not dismiss questions simply because they are difficult. We must be willing to examine the evidence. We must be willing to listen. And we must be willing to accept that discovery is a process. What makes this moment unique is not simply the subject itself, but the fact that we are witnessing a cultural and scientific shift in real time. For the first time, these conversations are happening openly. For the first time, they are being taken seriously across multiple disciplines. And for the first time, people around the world are beginning to realize that the pursuit of answers is something that connects us all. Because ultimately, this isn't just about lights in the sky. It's about the scientific evidence being hidden away from all of us. It's about understanding our place in a universe that is vast, complex, and still full of mystery. It's about recognizing that the search for the truth is one of the most important journeys we can undertake. The future of this subject will depend not on speculation, but on evidence. It will depend on the courage of individuals willing to come forward. It will depend on the integrity of researchers and investigators. And it will depend on platforms like this one, which help keep the conversation alive. We may not have all the answers yet, but history has shown us that answers often come when we are willing to look beyond the boundaries of what we think we know. So wherever this journey leads, it is important that we approach it with open minds, steady judgment, and a commitment to truth. Because discovery does not happen all at once. It happens step by step, question by question, signal by signal. Thank you for being part of this conversation. I'm Nick Pope, and this is the Galactic Family Podcast. Stay curious, keep questioning, and remember, the signal continues in you.
Whoa, mate.
Ah.
No, that's everything Nick Pope said there, absolutely spot on. And you know, hopefully we can play that again for the viewers another time as well. You know, like because like it carries like Nick has always been an amazing speaker. I find like his pace, his cadence, his rhythm, his timing. Has always been a very good speaker, but the words he's using there are impacting maybe more at this time. So yeah, thank you. If Nick is tuned in, thank you so much. I'm sorry I was, you know, like I was unavailable. And I am like Jay said to me, George, you're gonna kick yourself in the butt, and I'm like, am I? What have I done? He's like, well, you know, Nick's just been in the studio. I'm like, oh okay. But yeah, I think thank you so much for doing that for the Galactic Family Podcast here, and Jay and me and all of our listeners and viewers tuned in.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, Nick, and we're here for you. You know, we've got your back, and you know, just take it easy. We realize that, you know, you're going through a lot at this time in your life, and you know, take some time and be with the family. That's what I say.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for being part of this journey. We have the next podcast that is coming up. We have another one coming up, which will be with Natalie Hill with the Experiencers Initiative. She will be coming on. That's March 7th at 2:30 p.m. And we're going to be talking about different things, mostly about the stories of the Mysterian gathering place called The Hill. Is meditation the key to unlocking what has always been within us? And what responsibility do we have to recognize, support, and protect this emerging generation with these unique talents? So I can't wait to dive into that with her and really see where this is all going to take us in the end.
It's charting a course. It's charting a course within this, you know, everything's connected. Everyone's interconnected. We're all one here on this planet, and treat every one of us, you know, be cool. Be excellent to each other, to coin a phrase from a popular TV franchise, film franchise. Just be excellent, and you are all excellent. And Jay, you're excellent.
Listen, man, I do what I can for the people I love, and that is first and foremost will be my lovely fiance, who's just got off of work now, about to walk in the door, and the podcast and everyone here. You know, cool, that's my focus. I just want to make a community that is forward looking, not looking backwards, and getting actual research out to the masses.
Yeah, and just final thought from me, just a very big thank you very much to Dave Segal and NakiLogics.com. Please, the links below, hit the, you know what to do. But the links are below. The links are below to Naki Logics. Go and seek Dave Segal out on LinkedIn, and be a part of this movement to bring accessibility to all and have some fun at the same time. So, you know, like go and see what you can do.
We'll see you guys for the next one. And like Nick Pope said, the signal continues.
The signal continues. Yeah.
Thing is real. It can't be.
I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
There is no spoon.
Let me be clear. UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the world.
UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead.
is Nick Pogue, formerly from the British UFO Desk, and you're listening to the Galactic Family Podcast.
The signal has been received. The truth is still unfolding. The signal will continue with you.